Welcome to the Backstage Stories of Women on Stage, a podcast by Women on Stage recorded live. Let's go backstage and amplify the voices of leading women in tech from all across the globe. Get inspired and learn something new. Because if you can see it, you can be it. Join us. Visit womenonstage.net.
Hi everybody, this is Moran Weber. I'm the CEO and founder of Women on Stage, and you're listening to the Backstage Stories of Women on Stage, a podcast where we amplify the voices of leading women in tech. And for those of you who don't know us, Women on Stage is a global community platform to showcase, book, and train women professional speakers for any tech event, conference, meetup, or webinar, and podcast. And today we'll be hosting Jonah Andersson to learn how to get started with public speaking in tech. Jonah is a developer and cloud and DevOps engineer lead and the author of O'Reilly's book, Learning Microsoft Azure, Cloud Computing and Development Fundamentals, which is unbelievable. She will share with us today her tech career journey and how becoming a public speaker has impacted her professional life. We'll get a chance to hear how she turned from being a shy girl into a tech-savvy public speaker on stages worldwide and how you can do the same. So if you ever dreamt about becoming a public speaker, don't know where to start, stay right here. So hi, thank you for joining us, Jonah.
Yes, hi Moran, and hi everyone that's watching us live today or the recording session later on. Thanks for listening to us, and I'm so happy to be at the Women on Stage Backstage podcast.
Welcome. How are you today? So
I'm great. It's morning here, so I'm alive and kicking, and lots of energy after coffee. Yes, yeah.
Great. So let's start from the beginning. We want to hear a little bit about you. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'm in Sweden. I work as a consultant, a senior consultant with focus in software development in .NET technologies. I am also a cloud DevOps engineer, leading a group of people for DevOps and development. And outside work, I am actually pretty active in the community as the founder and leader of Azure User Group Sweden. And I also co-host a podcast, Extend Women in Tech, as well as international public speaker in some conferences in Sweden and around the world.
That's really, really great. That's actually why we invited you here, because you are such an inspiration and we really love your work. And I want to hear a little bit more about the book and about the stuff that you're doing for with the community group. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. I also missed that. Thank you for asking. I also forgot that I'm an author.
No, just that like small thing.
Yeah, so
You wrote a
aside
book. That's incredible.
Yeah. So aside from what I've been doing both at work and community and also as a public speaker, I've been working on my first book project with O'Reilly Media. So the book is entitled Learning Microsoft Azure Cloud Computing and Development Fundamentals. And it is a book that is the result actually of my own experience as a developer in migrating legacy applications to the cloud or to Azure, which actually had its challenges. And you think about it as fail fast, and you try this and doesn't work, try this and that. And because of that like experience that I have in that project, that made me come up with lessons learned and led me and motivated me to reach out to Aurelie and say, "Hey, Aurelie, I have this idea. I want to write a book. How does it work? I haven't written a book before." So it turned to be a
Wow.
project, and it will be published soon after the summer. So I finished the book. I just need to polish it, all the background things that needs to be done before printing out around the world. In production. But I'm actually proud, at the same time humble, and learned a lot from this journey. And that's the book
I
part of it. Yes.
I love it. I love it. That's so inspiring. I mean, the fact that you felt like you're dealing with some issues and you're struggling with some technical issues, and it's not, and then you said, I bet I'm not the only one who's experiencing these issues. And you were so proactive about it. You reached out to them, asking them if you should
Yes.
write a book. That's incredible. That's
Yeah.
incredible and so inspiring. Good for you. It's,
Yeah, thank you so much. And you did ask also about my user group. So this
Mhm.
is also another interesting story, maybe to our listeners and our audience, is that, we were stuck in remote working and pandemic around, like, COVID times, pandemic around the world. So in my area here in Sundsvall, like mid Sweden, there's isn't any community that teaches about tech, and no, and when you're stuck in, like, working from home, you really crave for that connection and community and knowledge sharing together. So to make the long story short, about 2 years ago, I decided to start a community, a virtual community that shares about Azure. So I didn't know how to start. I started it myself anyway. I was the organizer and at the same time speaker. And the group grew from only me to another co-host, another MVP, and to about 700 members today. And all speakers from around the world, other MVPs, are volunteering to spare their time bi-weekly on Saturdays to share knowledge to other developers and communities. So it's really amazing how community help each other to share knowledge, and it inspires me, of course.
It sounds amazing. It sounds amazing and really important. And I think that people really want to share their knowledge. People really want to share their stories. People want to get help from the community. So we also had our last episode was about the power of tech communities. So
Oh,
you can
that's
find
amazing.
yeah. So you can
I could
find the
join in that one. That's one of the things I'm very passionate about, to be honest.
I think you could have joined like many many episodes. You have so much things that you can share with us, and so much things that
Yes,
you can teach us. So
yes.
so many things that we can learn from you. So, but today we want to talk more about how to get started with public speaking in tech,
Hmm?
and I want to know. I mean, I want to know a little bit more about your origin story and how did you even started to get into that and why.
Yes, that's an amazing question, and interesting as well. First, I want to say that I grew up very shy and very scared about being the center of attention and being in the crowd. Like, my mother died of breast cancer when I was 18, but when I was
Sorry to hear that.
yeah, thank you. But when I was growing up, I was like, she was like my role model, because it's like my cheerleader in a way that every time I have presentations in school as a little girl, she always like tried to push me that, hey, it's don't be afraid of the crowd. Like, you're there for school and it will be great. So she was always like motivating me all the time. And then when
Did you grow up in Sweden or the
I grew up in
Philippines?
the Philippines. So I
Mm-hmm.
moved from Philippines to Sweden about 11 years ago, 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So So the journey of being shy started already in the Philippines, and then all my history is very, very long. But to make the long story short, when I moved to Sweden and started working as an IT consultant or a developer, I had this opportunity. I was still shy though as an adult, but I had this opportunity. I really love knowledge sharing. So when I have the opportunity to share knowledge about programming to kids in school in Sweden, here in my city, Sundsvall, I had this exposure of like being in front of the kids or the youth, teenagers, and teach them what I do in a way that I go in their level, like kids, I mean, youth level. So I was teaching block programming, some robot programming with iPads, and also JavaScript for those that are really advanced at their age. And I noticed that the class that I have were mostly dominated by boys, like one, two, three girls I could see.
How
And
old were they?
they were about like 9 to 15, maybe teenagers.
Nine,
Yes.
and already it was dominated by boys. Wow. I thought
Yeah.
it
And there's,
starts
yeah. And
later.
yeah, there's still actually a challenge of like tech in schools. Actually, it's not just in our IT real world,
Right.
but there's also it is starting in schools, and there's still a gap there, of course. So I'm really glad that the schools where I was like teaching programming on the side of my consulting job had this like course for programming, because it's a good opportunity for them to get exposure. But to make a long story short, I saw that there were only a few girls, and it kind of like a bit disappointing to see that, hey, these, I wish they were like as excited as me in learning this stuff, because I mean, working as a developer in tech is like, I think it's the opposite of the stereotype that if you're a developer programmer, it's just logic. But actually it's the opposite. There's a lot of variations to it and diversity to it. Like you learn logic, you learn design, you learn a lot of things. And
It's very creative. It's a
yes,
very.
it is. It is. So to make it short, without talking too much, is that
It is interesting. So
it is
go
interesting.
on.
I'm trying not to talk a lot. To make it short, I had the opportunity to do my first public speaking in the crowd at that time. I think that was about 6, 8 years ago, here in Sweden. I was asked, Jonah, do you want to share about your journey to working in IT or tech? We want you in on stage for about like 20, 30 minutes in a big like stadium called Nordic Holland in here in Sundsvall. And then the audience are actually students from different schools in the area. So there were about 500 students. And I got on stage, and the first challenge that I have in my first public speaking is I have to speak and deliver my tech story in Swedish. And at that time, I wasn't so fluent then. I was a bit nervous backstage, but I did it anyway. Because I was really motivated that, hey, I really want to inspire these kids that I'm shy, I know, but if I break this barrier, maybe I can make a difference by being there. So that was the starting point of my public speaking journey, and also knowledge sharing, because I'm really passionate about sharing knowledge, because I believe that the more you give your knowledge, the more power you gain. And at the same time, the more you empower others as well, which is impactful because
Amazing.
they themselves will empower others as well. So it's like paying it forward to others.
I love that. I love that. What you just said, it's like it's part of the mission of what we do at Women on Stage. You just articulated perfectly. I might I might use it. It sounds so good.
Thank you.
It's really it was when I first started Women on Stage, I started with the same with the same mission, with the same vision. I also believe in sharing knowledge and passing it forward. And I also want to add that the fact that you said about teaching and training girls, it's something that I saw that I see all the time. I mean, we do like public speaking workshops for women, and they might say things like, well, I don't have anything important to talk about, I don't have anything to share, or I'm too scared, I'm too afraid to do that. But when sometimes when they think about, they imagine that their audience will be girls or juniors or students in computer science. So it makes them feel like, okay, I really want to inspire the younger generation, and they feel like they're more adequate, because some, like, going on stage with senior people, you're really scared that they will find you out, they will catch you as a fraud and all of that. You probably know that.
Yes.
But when you think about someone who's younger, or you want to inspire the next generation, it breaks that initial barrier. So I think that's really a great. So if for the audience, or for those who are listening and wondering how to get started, think about the younger generation. Think about how you can train kids, how you can train students, and it can be easier. They really want to know, and you have a lot of interesting information to share with them. So thank you for that insight, Jonah. And okay, so I wanted to ask. So I wanted to ask a little bit about, like, okay, so we've been through some years ever since you first started, and by now you've been speaking in conferences worldwide, and it's amazing that you turned from a shy girl into the one who sends an email to Rayleigh and asking them to write a book as a professional. So that's really incredible journey. So we want to learn a little bit more about, can you share some tips? So if you're preparing a talk for a conference, or even if you're preparing to speak to children or to young
Yes.
people, how do you ensure that you're ready for your audience? How do you do that? And how do you match the content to that alleged audience beforehand?
Yeah, great questions there. Let's see if we catch up the first, second, and the third. Yeah, yeah. So there are, first I want to say that there are different ways to speak, right? So based on my experience, so you can share knowledge or do public speaking both in person in conferences or meetups, and then you can also do it virtually if you're unable to be in person. And then, of course, there's also this public speaking slash training education part where you get on a classroom and teach either kids or other developers about a certain topic. To me, the first thing, I have actually a lot of things in my mind and list, but I think the most important thing that we need to think about as a speaker, or I as a speaker, is being mentally and emotionally prepared before your talk, because if you're not like positive and like if you don't have this mental preparation and emotionally preparation that you're gonna do this, then it won't be easy to deliver, right? And then the next one is really knowing your topic. So choose a topic that, or a topic that you want to share to others in a conference or in a training or in a public speaking, in a way that you know what you're talking about. So you cannot talk about something that you don't know, because the audience, regardless if it's like virtual or in person, they will know that you're the body language, your body language, that you don't know what you're talking about. And then, of course, you always have to know both the practical side of it. Like if you're speaking in a conference, usually the first point of contact are the organizers. So the organizers, that's their like part of their passion to share. These are the events. These are the details for you as a speaker. So knowing the practical stuff from the organizers, and even the talk that you're gonna deliver, and knowing your audience. Like, for example, what kind of conference it is. Is it a developer conference focused in .NET? So you have to aim your talk in a way that you're talking with them also as a .NET developer. So you need to be in their level, because I believe that public speaking, after all my experience with kids and all layers of
Mm-hmm.
audience, public speaking is actually not about you as a speaker. It's about actually you being the representative of bringing out this knowledge that you have out to your audience. So you're actually not getting all the praises yourself, but even though
You're the
speakers,
messenger.
yeah, you are like a messenger and ambassador of the topic that you're talking about, and you are there as a representative. And public speaking is actually not about you, but it's actually about your audience. And that's actually my goal as a speaker. That's always my goal, that every time I end my session, I hope that at least one or two of my audience, regardless how big or small is the crowd, have gained something and have learned, or at least have been inspired about what I talked about.
That's fascinating, and I actually, if I think that people, well, if they're really really anxious, and they have like a major stage fright, if they reframe their thoughts to think about not what will they think about me, it's me, and what will they think about my message, and how do I deliver that message, and what do I want to share with the world, and as a representative, as a messenger, like you said, then it's easier to feel connected, and then you feel a little less anxious, because just like what we said before, with helping and getting more girls into tech.
Hmm.
So if we think about the mission, then we think then we probably think that we can do it, and we feel more capable. So that's really really great. I just wanted to ask another thing, that you said that you should know what you're speaking about, but I think in many cases, I meet a lot of women who, they're experts. They're really, really, really experts, but they don't think they're experts, and they don't think they have,
Ah,
they don't
imposter
think they're
syndrome.
exactly, and they don't think their knowledge is enough. So I want to
Mm,
tell them that they're enough. They know, okay, they
yes,
know.
I agree. I agree. I like that, because I can have my imposter syndrome sometimes, because I mean, I talk about specific topics that I'm really passionate about, like because I do both technical talks most of the time, but I try to vary my talks in a way that there are soft skills and inspiration in it. So I share about importance of tech communities, mentorship, and also talks like this that inspires other women or others to speak as well. But one of the things that I also experience sometimes is that I want to make a twist in my technical talks. They want to talk about certain topics. And then sometimes there's this little like hint of imposter syndrome that say, oh, I want to talk about that. I know I can talk about it. I just need to like make sure that I do a good demo. And the imposter syndrome comes like, you can't do that. You haven't done it before. But at my angel side of my head said, if I don't try, if I don't tried speaking about it, then it means that I will never learn how to deliver it. And so you have to stop that syndrome as much as you can and think of the opposite side of it. And then another thing related to this is that never be afraid to share about your failures in technical development. Like one of the reasons why I wrote the book is about I can say that the migration experience that I have in Azure was kind of like a fiasco in a way that it didn't make it to production with all the trial and error and all of that. But those lessons learned and mistakes that we had in that project actually became was one of my favorite topics to talk about in conferences and even meetups, like things to consider or not to prevent in migrating to Azure or to the cloud. So never be afraid to speak about mistakes and lessons learned, because that's what your audience wants. They are there to learn from your experience, regardless if it's a high level, very good experience, or mistakes that you made and how you conquered them and solved them. Show it to them, and don't be afraid to be vulnerable and be human on stage as well.
Definitely. I think they actually prefer the
Yes,
failures. They prefer the mistakes. It's much more interesting because
yes,
that's how we learn. That's how we learn. Like for babies, they
yeah,
don't walk for the first time. They try.
yes,
They
that's
they they
right.
make the first step and then they fall and then they
Yeah,
do it and then they try
yeah.
again and then they
Yes, I
try again.
agree. Learn by doing and just keep practicing. And then also in terms of woman in stage, I know you're Moran. I'm very proud about what you do, and I'm honored to be here. And the purpose and vision of women in stage is actually amazing in a way that you inspire others to get on stage and be themselves and voice out what they need to share. And at the same time, also to the audience, I wanted to share based on my experience to 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 just do what you really want to do without thinking that about the negative side of it, because many are scared to get on stage because of the first thing is that they're scared that they will fail, or they're scared that will the backside the negative mindset that have in our head sometimes. But if you just do small baby steps, I and then get support from women on stage community or other speakers that you're really like getting inspiration from, plus mentorship, I think that's a good start as my advice.
Great advice. So
Yes.
I want to ask you one last question before we wrap up. And I wanted to ask, what is your magic touch on stage?
Okay, magic touch. The magic touch, I believe, is like for technical presentation, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. For magic touch, interesting word. For presentations, I think it is important to really know your audience. You are there to connect and to share knowledge. Like some of the audience are actually paying for to get on the conference and listen to you. They're investing their time. So know your audience, and also try to be inclusive and connect. Don't disclude or exclude someone, and give them the value that they need in your talk, and don't be afraid to be like to be yourself and be genuine. So that's my magical touch. And also give them something that they can bring with them. The key takeaways are very important, so they remember what they what they had on the session.
Amazing. So I think this episode was really, really fascinating, and I could listen to you speak all day. I mean, that the thing that you said about being genuine, I think it's something that you naturally have. I don't know if you know it, but it's something in your eyes. It's something about your authenticity. It's the way that you share and the way that you share your values. I mean, I think that's like the most inspiring thing about you. And
Thank
I've
you.
had a wonderful time speaking with you today. And for everybody who's listening to us, I hope you enjoyed our episode. And thank you so much, Jonah, for joining us today. For joining us today, and I hope we'll be seeing more from you soon. So stay tuned for
Thank
other
you.
events by Women on Stage. I think we'll keep doing things together. I think you're really, really, really great. And join us again next time at the Backstage Stories of Women on Stage. Bye. Thank
Bye bye.
you.
Thank you for joining.